What's going on, guys? Last night I had a conversation with a gentleman, and I told him, I said, man, you know what? I really appreciate that question. I said, because tomorrow's video is going to be about you. So, number one, let me say, head of household. Head of household means that you pay more than 50% of the cost of housing and utilities for you and another person. All right? And that other person is supposed to be related by blood or by marriage. If that is not the case, then you're not head of household. Now, you can be head of household if you have a parent or grandparent, right? They don't have to live with you, but you do have to pay for more than half of their support, and I think housing and utilities too. The tax code says support, so but parents don't have to live with you at all. They can live in a whole different address, but otherwise the person has to live with you, or you have to pay for more than 50% of their housing and utilities, and they have to be related. That's what makes you head of household. Now, you know, when I was younger, I definitely thought that head of household meant that I was the head of my household. It's like, you know, like, damn right, I'm the head of my household. Like, that's, yeah. But no, that's not the case. That's not what makes you head of household. So, a dependent is someone that you pay more than 50% of the cost of supporting them. For 2018, the number is $4,150. So you have to pay for more than half of that to say that you are supporting that person, right? Now, that person, again, has to be related by blood or by marriage. The person does not have to live with you. You just have to pay for more than half of their support. Now, the problem with the support thing is that if there is another person supporting that same dependent, depending on how much we say support costs, because, you know, it's literal support. I mean, how much are clothes? How much is food? How much is medical? How much is, you know, school? How much is, you know, everything that was spent on this particular person, right, for that year. All right, so I'm gonna transition a little bit, but I'm gonna come back because this is reminding me of another conversation. Well, many conversations. Okay, if the person you support, let's say you're a parent and you have a, you know, 17, 18-year-old daughter, okay? If your daughter's making $4,150 a year, then your daughter, your son can support themselves. So if they make more than $4,150 and you're claiming them as a dependent, then the question becomes, where did their money go, right? Where did their money go? It didn't go to support, so you got extra cash on the books. So it's like, you should use that money to make more money, right? So then that wouldn't be part of support, right? And if you're paying more than $4,150 a year to support that 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, then you have to ask yourself, well, why are you giving this person money? Because remember, there's only 4 ways to transfer money. You can transfer it as a gift. You can transfer it as a loan. You can transfer it as charity. You can transfer it as compensation. So what happens is you have a 17-year-old that's making $15,000 a year. And so the question becomes, all right, well, if someone is paying for more than half of their support, and they make $15,000 a year, then clearly their support has to be over $30,000. Or else, where did that person's money go? You know? And so that's the reason why I tell parents all the time. I say, listen, if your child is making more than $12,000 a year, I don't care if they 15, that's no longer your dependent. It's not your dependent. You know what I'm saying? It's not. I had that argument with my mom years ago, right? I went to file my taxes. Next thing you know, I owed the IRS. Why? Because she filed me as a dependent. I had to be making a good bit of money for me to have to pay the IRS money out of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get no refund. Like, so that happens. It happens all the way up to 24 years of age, in some cases. And so that's something else. So again, if your dependent is making more than $12,000 a year, I do not suggest that you put them on your return as a dependent. They're really not your dependent. Because again, if they really are your dependent, then you should be able to show exactly how much money went towards their support. And again, support is not housing and utilities. That's not support. Support is food, clothes, medical, incidentals, right? That's support. It really is. It's food, clothes, medical. That's support. That keeps you alive. All the money was spent on that is support. And like I said, for 2018, that number is 4,150. So really, if anyone is making more than $4,150 a year, they can take care of their own support. And we've talked about, what those support numbers are. The IRS right now has one person at $647 a month, but that's not supposed to be considered a child. That's supposed to be like an adult. So. But yeah, $647 a month, which is what, like $8,000, $9,000. So here's what happened. The guy has his girlfriend living with him and her 3 children, and he asked if he can put her and the 3 children on his tax return. And of course, the answer was no. Of course you can. They have to be related by blood or by marriage. He says, well, I'm head of household. I said, well, no, you are not, because the people that you're transferring money to are not related to you. They're not related to you by blood or by marriage. So what are you doing supporting them? Right? Okay, so here's the way the conversation goes. If you are spending money on your girlfriend and her 3 children, then you have to ask yourself, why are you doing that? Because remember, there's only 4 ways to transfer it: a gift, charity, compensation, or a loan. And so I told him, I said, listen, man, I can't really advise you without seeing your numbers and really understanding how money's being spent and how much and stuff like that. I said, but I'll give you your options, all right? And that's what it comes down to, If the only way I can make that legit is if I understand exactly how to know, and I can't. It's hard to explain that unless you understand. Like I'll ask people sometimes, how much did you spend on food last year? And they'll say, oh about 7,000. Like, well, you have to kind of know. It's like, I need the actual number, Without the actual number, it may not be the best way to go. It just depends. Depends on where the money is actually going, if you want to make it airtight, lock solid, right? So anyway, I guess I gave him his options. You can give it as a gift, right? Which is not going to be tax deductible, of course, because it's a gift. But if you give more than $15,000 a year to any one person, you yourself as the giver have to file and pay a gift tax return. Okay? I've had this conversation a lot with people too. You giving away how much money a year? Why are you paying that money? it's a tough one. So you're supposed to file and pay gift tax on that every year. All right, so if it's a gift, then that's that. Okay. If it's a loan, well, that's fine. You just have to set it up as a loan, right? You know, just put something on paper. It's a loan, give you money. If they don't pay it back, you have to wait at least, you know, like a year or something, maybe 6 months, a reasonable amount of time before you can say, all right, well, this person's clearly not going to pay this money back, right? Okay. If you do that, then you can deduct $3,000 a year. But the cool part about it is you get $3,000 a year every year until all the money runs out. So if you add up, you know, half the rent and utilities, half the support at $647 a month, right? If your numbers that come out of your bank account, your financial transactions, if it matches anything close to that, then that's a lot of bread, right? $647 a month per person a year. I mean, I'm sorry, a month. So anyway, and you add all that up, and that is the loan, right? Okay, and that's per year. And if it doesn't get paid back, then okay, you write out $3,000 of it, but you do that every year. All right, that's that option. The third option is charity, right? So you say this person is someone who's not related to me, and I have a charity or some church where I feel like giving to these particular members, and you know, I have the religious freedom and the religious right and the legal right to choose who those members are by any methods that I can't disclude the public, but I can definitely decide that, you know, hey, you got to go to this website and sign up to be a beneficiary of this particular group or this particular nonprofit. And as long as that information is somehow public, then then I've given membership to the public, and maybe only 1 or 2 people signed up. It happens. It really does happen. And then so they'll be beneficiaries of that charity, and so then you'll be able to write off that money as a charitable donation every year. Now the issue with the charitable donation is that it's limited to 60% of your income, but it's also limited to that cost of living number, because you're giving to charity when you could be using it for yourself, right? So for 2018, that number has to be above $12,000. So you have to be spending more than $12,000 a year on support, housing, and utilities in order for it to even become worth it, right? All right. And then the last option is as compensation, right? And that was an interesting conversation that I was really glad that I was able to have with another young man who was clearly younger than myself. And I asked him, I said, listen, clearly if you're telling me, you're paying for housing and utilities and support, then clearly you're getting something out of that. Like, there's no way you would be spending all that money if you weren't getting something from it. Like, what are you getting, And, we talked about it a little bit, and he said, well, she cleans my house a lot. I was like, okay, well, there you go. So that's maid services. You know what I'm saying? This young lady is not your relative. Y'all aren't related by blood or by marriage. I said, so makes sense to me that, the money that you're now paying her in exchange for doing this work for you, she would then file a tax return, right? And you would 1099 her the amount of money, and then she will file the tax return and she'll get the refund. I said, but at that point, that is her refund. I said, and there's no way for you to have, any sort of right to that. Like, Like legally, you can't even negotiate that check unless there's a power of attorney, in play. But even that becomes an issue. So anyway, point is, that's hard one, right? That money is hers. It's gonna come in her name, and you would have to work out with her, what you could possibly get. I said the other option is you can do that and actually charge her, rent and utilities and support. Like literally charge her that money and say, look, I need that every month, right? You can definitely do that with rent. What the IRS says is that if someone lives with you, right, and they're not related by marriage or by blood, even if they are, it's possible that they have a rental agreement with you, okay? Now, here's the thing. That rental agreement has to be a fair amount of money, right? And when I say fair amount of money, I mean literally it has to be fair. It has to be market value, fair market value of the rent. Otherwise, you can't declare any losses on it, right? But you can definitely declare income on it. That's not a problem. So let's just keep it simple. Let's say rent is $1,000 a month, right? Okay. If you split that, that's $500 a piece, right? So $6,000 can be paid as income, but also, okay, sorry, yeah, I'm driving. The $6,000 will be rental income, but it'll be subtracted from the $12,000 that you paid for rent. Okay, makes sense? So if you paid $12,000 for rent, then you would deduct $6,000, right? So, if the refund is $6,000, you can get that back. And then maybe you don't do anything with support, right? Just support is support, but all you want is the rent. You know what I'm saying? So you can do that. And then, like I said, if you do charge a fair market value, because you don't have to, you can charge $300 a month. Don't matter. You can charge $200 a month. Just know that if you only charge like $100 a month, you're not going to be able to claim any losses. That's all, right? If you claim fair market value, then you can actually claim some rental losses, which is cool. So those was his options, and I think he kind of groaned at the last one. He was like, it has been her name. Yeah. So I wanted to have that conversation. That really hit home. I was like, yeah, I gotta do a video about that. So remember, again, just to reiterate, and I'll throw some links up too. If you are paying for more than half of housing and utilities for a person who lives with you that is related by blood or by marriage, that makes you head of household. Nothing else does. So he was not head of household, he was single. All right, from me to you.